Yep. Back again, guys. Episode 5. We took the mill scale off the front edge of our drill gauge last time, and we're just working still on our 80 grit sandpaper to get all the imperfections out of this. Now I can still see a couple straight off the bat here, and I'll put some marks around them. I can see a little dot there, so I don't like that one. I can see one over there. I don't like that one. Might be a little one down there, and that whole area there still looks a little bit black, like it might have a little bit of mill scale that needs to come off still. Yep, and that looks pretty good. I'm not worrying about this area here because that's going to get cut off later. Mind you, there doesn't, oh no, there's a tiny little imperfection up there. So, my last bit of 80 grit was getting pretty dull. When I feel that now, and grab a piece of 180, really fairly similar. It's just rougher, but not by much. So when it's worn out, not great. Yes, that part there is fantastic, and that part there is fantastic, so I could spin it round on the block and get the most out of this. But I've also got another piece here that's relatively good. It's actually a bit long. Let's trim it up a little bit. This was an offcut that was left up the top here. I'm actually out of 80 grit at the moment. Alright, so let's go and try and get those little marks out. Make sure there's not too much rubbish on top of the jaws or on the face of the jaws. Let's see the grit I pulled off there. Hold your dummy piece of drill gauge or somebody else's drill gauge on top. Place that back in the jaws. Make sure it's sitting on there nicely. Clamp those jaws up. You'll notice that I've moved from the larger vices to one of the smaller vices. Reason for that is when I'm over the top of this, I have all this body mass over the top doing work for me. When I'm over on the large vice, I only have this much body mass. So more body mass than the smaller ones. Speeds up the sanding. Alright, look at that, it's not too bad. It's a bit clogged up one end. It's a bit used, but it's better than that last piece we had. Alright. Same deal, wrap that around. Ooh, next thing. On a lot of these vices, on a lot of these little blocks here, you'll find that people have just freshly cut them and they're fresh off the bandsaw. So what you should be doing with them to start with, before you start using them, is just check the edges with your fingers. I reckon there's a little burr down there where it might have been dropped. Or check all these edges. You don't want to put scratches in your job that are going to take more work. Now at 80 grit, this isn't a huge issue, but when you start getting up to finer grits and you're getting like a mirror finish, you don't want to have little scratches in there. So just check your edges, grab a smooth file. If you think there's a suspect one, and on a 45-degree angle, just chamfering it again. Slight chamfer. No, all good. Always pushing forwards, never dragging back. Lifting the file after every stroke. Good. That one definitely has a little burr there. I'll take that one off. It's only a smooth file, it's not taking much off. Good. And the last one, just for good measure because I've done all the others. You'll notice I'm hanging onto the handle of this, the tang area of this. Not a fantastic idea because this can be sharp. But do not use them if they are missing a handle. Because if you're hanging onto this area here and Let me go grab one that doesn't have a handle and I'll explain. If you're hanging onto a file without a handle, now we've got the blade section and the tang section. This is the tang. Similar in lathe circles because on our Morse tapered drill chuck here, this part here is the tang. So it's like the locating part is the tang. Same. Locating the handle, tang, tang, tang. But the tangs on these can be quite sharp. These are punched out originally, so when they get punched into this shape, they do tend to leave a good burr on here. And if you're filing like this, and you file, and for some reason you slip, and that runs all the way down your arm here and opens yourself up, that won't be great. So handles should always be on files. Do not use one without it because the chances of slipping there are fairly high. This handle's not great at the moment. I could probably do with putting a new one on here. There is a chip in it, but that's only going to give me a splinter, not a big cut through the wrist. All right, so I chamfered those edges just to make sure there's no little burrs that can damage my job. Let's wrap that back up again and continue. Alright, so all those blue spots I had to really concentrate on. I see some people commented and said that I should just be putting this on the surface grinder and surface grinding it. And the surface grinder is behind me. That would do a fantastic job. But the wheels are also 80 grit. So all it will do is give me an 80 grit finish. So I can't go any higher. I can buy other abrasive wheels for it and buy smoother ones so I can get 160s, 240s, and I think I can get like a 600 for it pretty easily too. So I could go all the way up to 600 in our surface grinder rather than having to manually do this. But that's just cheating, and you guys have to do it this way, so this way it shall be. Now notice all the blue text is gone. But I won't stop because I want to take, the blue texture comes off really easily. I'm trying to get down to those little black marks, which might be, I don't know, maybe maximum 1/4 millimetre deep into the material. So I'm trying to take off bulk amounts of material here. I will need to stop in a second though, because my fingers are starting to hurt. Just like you guys do, and start having a chat to everybody. All right. Yeah, it's getting close. So, at this point now, how are we looking there?
Yeah, it's good.
At this point now, just giving it a quick blow to make sure there's no dust sitting on it and pretending to be little holes. It's not looking too bad. I reckon I've only got one left to get out. And that one is just in the middle of that blue circle there. Again, I've sort of got to move it through the light just to try and see if I can find any others that aren't standing out very well. That big area of mill scale, that's been fixed. I think that's pretty good. It's just our one little dot right in the middle there. How deep that is, I don't really know. But it'll come out either way. Our 80 grit sandpaper with a bit of work will repair that. So let's set it back up again. Now you'll notice I put my block and my sandpaper down on the table. Just be careful when you do that. At the moment, it's not a huge issue for me, but there's a lot of rubbish on these tables. And when you get to smoother sandpapers, when you get up to 320 and 600, you don't want to sit your job down like that, pick it up and have a little grain of something really rough sitting on your paper to then go scratch, scratch, scratch and make more work for you. So be careful with these. Try to put them up on their side or give them a bit of a rub prior to using them again after sitting them down on the table. Alright, let's work on this one little spot. Now I'm going to have to stop soon and talk about something else because I don't know if my fingers will last long enough to get this little mark out. So I think we'll stop in a second and go talk about our surface grinder. Spin this around and use a different section of it. Let's get it this way. There you go. I've got some new, really rough 80 grit there as opposed to the smoother stuff that I've been working on. Rough, smooth. All I did was spin it on the block a little bit. Try to go the full length of your piece of steel. Don't just go halfway and stop, because when you turn around, you'll leave like a little swirl because you never turn back and go back perfectly straight. You'll start slowly and it'll swirl and then it'll go back. So go through the full length each time you do a stroke. Alright, I'm not going to look at that. Let's go over to the surface grinder. So we were talking about this before, and you guys will use this to do your third project. Your third project is a milling machine project. Milling machines, and it has to be surface ground at the end. Now this is a really accurate machine. It will do an accuracy of 0.01 millimeters. So really accurate. 0.01 millimeters is about a quarter the thickness of a hair. So we've got our piece here. Now I could have cheated and put it on the bed here and then magnetised the bed. It's a magnetic bed. So let's put our block on there. Block, easy, comes off, mag-sized. I turn our magnet on with this Allen key here. Wrong way. That way. Now, it's stuck on there. And our abrasive wheel here, I'll take the, I'll lift this cover up so you can see what's actually happening in here. Inside our cover is just, oh, super long bolt, this one. Should stick to that. No, let's put it up, I don't want it stuck to it. It's just an abrasive wheel that you'll see on any of the bench grinders. Now you do generally have a lot of different specialty wheels for surface grinders, for cutting harder materials, for doing softer materials, for doing a lot of other stuff. But this one is a 60 grit. So if I rub my fingers on the side there, and I rub my fingers on the side of this 80 grit sandpaper, then they feel very similar. P60, P80. So if I was to surface grind this, I'd get a slightly rougher finish than I would with our 80 grit. But yes, I could use this to get the mill scale off initially. But again, cheating. It's supposed to be a hand tools project, not a power tools project. And we'll go back and have a check and see if I got those little pinholes out. All right. Looking positive. I think I've spotted one still. I think it's the same one. Yep. So, just down the bottom here, there's one little mark. If I put a circle around it, I'll be able to see that better. Tiny little black mark right in the middle of that blue circle. That's all it is. That's the only defect I can see. And that'll really stand out later on when you go and get to a much finer polish. Now I could leave that there. I could risk it and go, okay, it's really tiny. Maybe the next grit will get it out. What's after 80? I grab some 180. Maybe the 180 will get that out. I'd be risking it. I'm better off spending another couple of minutes on 80 grit, making sure it is out, and then going to the next grit. So that's what I'll do. Lock. Back to our 80 grit. Alright. What's this, third time's a charm, or is it fourth time? I apologise, it's not super stimulating, but I'm sure you'll make me double time. You can't be bothered watching me for the whole 20 minutes sanding. But there is juicy pieces of information throughout this. I reckon I can still see it. Just blowing off my sandpaper there. It was starting to clog up with iron filings. Well, not filings, just iron dust basically. You can see it getting all over my fingers there. Just give it a wipe or a rub. It will declog those little grits and give you a better cut again. We're almost there. I think that's it, guys. All right, it's actually quite warm there to touch now. The friction that's applied from that grit has put a fair bit of heat into this. So that's all gone. It was just down here somewhere, but no more. All right, So if this was the end of a class, you could just go put in the locker now. No, incorrect. You need to do one more step before you put in the locker. You could be leaving it for a week, you could be leaving it for a month, who knows. Either way, you need to protect this coating. Now, I'm not protecting it from scratches. Protecting it from scratches would be put it in a box or wrap it up in paper towel. We don't want to waste resources and do that. All we're going to do is go into our storeroom and find some CRC. Now when the CRC comes out, it should be like a black dot. It's a bit milky. I think it's had some coolant in this one in the past. It should be a brown looking colour. Even if you do spray the wrong one on there and spray some coolant on there, coolant is simply water and oil, so it will still do the same thing. That would have rusted because the mill scale is not only a protectant for scratches, but it's also a protectant for rust. So the mill scale side doesn't need to be done, but now that you're back down to bare metal here, you leave that in the cupboard for a week, it'll rust up. I seem to have fairly salty sweat, so if you see me touch somebody's job and they put it away without having put any CRC on it, you're guaranteed to see my fingerprints in it the next week. That's it, guys. I'll leave you to it and we'll go to another episode very shortly. See ya.